This is Dr. Fayrer's house at Lucknow Residency. Dr. Fayrer was a British physician who came to India in 1850. It was a very extensive lower room building with a flat roof, protected by sandbags all round, behind which the English kept up firing upon the Indian fighters. The large tahkhana beneath served as a refuge for the ladies like Miss James and others. This post was defended by Captain Weston, superintendent of the military police. This place was much exposed to the rebels' fire. Here on this spot in the veranda, according to Miss James, one of the gunners was shot dead in the morning of August 4, 1857. When she came upstairs to dress, she saw the poor fellow lying there in a pool of blood. Here in this room, Henry Lawrence breathed his last on 4 July 1857 after the injured general was moved here. Then, on August 16, 1857, a shell burst in the veranda outside Miss Fayrer's room, but she escaped unhurt. Dr. Fayrer then carried her bed in the center of the house, which was comparatively safe. When, on 26 September 1857, on the 88th day of the siege, relief arrived, then this whole compound around Dr. Fayrer's house and veranda was filled with the deliverers. Tea was served to the men, which was prepared in the very cellar of Fayrer's house. Lamartine principal Mr. Schilling also stayed here for a little change as he was seriously ill on September 8, 1857. On the arrival of Havelock's relieving forces, Sir James Outram made this house his headquarters. He and his staff occupied the long room in which the gentlemen slept and the drawing room. Miss James had a narrow escape on the evening of 23rd October 1857 when a bullet hit the leg of the chair she was sitting on. All these actions took place here under the roofs of Dr. Fayrer's home. The shattered walls of the buildings are mute witnesses to the tragic events which unfolded here. Women and children used to sleep here, that is 11 ladies and 7 children on the floor of the cellar. The gentlemen used to sleep upstairs in a long veranda sort of room on the side of the house least exposed to fire, and it was this portion. In the morning, they all rolled up their bedding and piled it in heaps against the wall. They had room for only few chairs, that's why most of them used to take their meal seated on the floor with their plates on their knees. On the morning of October 30, an 18-pounder came through their unfortunate room again, which they thought was a safe place and where they were so comfortable. When Miss James arrived in the residency compound, there was confusion everywhere, as all the unfortunate ladies and children were hunting for quarters. Dr. Fayrer was kind enough to invite them at his house, and they accepted. In his house there were few other ladies, Miss Dashwood and her 2 children, Miss and Miss Halford, Miss Germon, Miss Schilling, Miss Thomas and child, Miss Anderson and Mrs. Stanley Clarke, Mr. Gubbins and Mr. Ommaney, whose house was full to overflowing, and all the other ladies, about 30 in number, with children innumerable, were in the residency building, which also contained the sick and women and children of 32nd Battalion. On July 20, 1857, Dr. Fayrer's house received no less than 8 round shot from rebels who were holed up just opposite of the road. On September 23, 1857, when an Indian servant, a poor Bhishti, was filling water jugs. At that moment, a round-shot 24-pounder came through the window and filled the room with dust and debris. He at once rushed out in most awful fright and could scarcely believe that he wasn't killed, other than fright that shot caused no other harm. European casualties were happening every day in whole residency compound through the deadly firing of rebels. One can easily see through his naked eyes the scars left on the walls of buildings, here in the shape of holes caused by innumerable shots fired. It was just across from this road that shots were continuously fired on this building by Indian rebels. The lady further writes that with the frequent night attacks of the enemy, the crying and illness of the poor children, the rats and mice which run over them, the heat and the sleepiness of the pankha man, unbroken sleep was a luxury they had long been strangers to. Getting water from this well in those days was a Herculean task, and many lost their lives while fetching water because they came under direct fire. Miss Jane's husband had a miraculous escape one morning as he was going to hospital. A round shot passed close over his head and entered the wall just above him. The room where Henry Lawrence died. On entering the belly guard gate, the mind of the visitor is filled with strange emotions. And this feeling is intensified when standing beneath the battered walls, who are silent witness of the fierce conflict that once raged here. On the 18th day of the siege on September 17, 1857, when Miss James and all were sitting out in the veranda that evening, then an 8-inch shell fell and exploded in a lane opposite only 20 yards away. No one was hurt, but they all flew into the house like frightened sheep. This place possesses a peculiar interest to tourists and other history enthusiasts who are attracted from all parts of the world. That memorable siege of 1857 remains unparalleled in the annals of British history. I'll put an end to my narration in the words of Nicholson: "The land you tread on is historic ground." Thank the Lord for being with me. Goodbye.